The air in that opulent New Orleans restaurant wasn't just thick with tension, it was suffocating, heavy with the weight of his contempt. He was a billionaire, his words like poisoned darts, aimed directly at my dignity, trying to tear me down in front of everyone. My heart was pounding, a frantic drum against my ribs, and for a split second I thought I might break. But then something shifted. A fire, deep within me, ignited. I looked him dead in the eye, and with a voice I barely recognized as my own, a voice trembling yet resolute, I uttered one single sentence. That sentence didn't just shock the entire room, it didn't just silence a powerful man. It changed everything for me and for so many others. Have you ever faced that moment, that impossible choice, where standing up felt like the only option, even when fear threatened to consume you? Tell me, what did you do? I'm Anya, and this is my story. A sudden hush fell over the crescent bloom, the culinary gem of New Orleans, like a bolt of lightning ripping through a calm sky. Forks paused mid-bite, silverware froze in outstretched hands, and every patron's gaze swung toward the elegant corner table. The usual symphony of clinking glasses and hushed conversations had abruptly ceased, replaced by a palpable tension that hummed in the air. It wasn't the kind of silence that invited reflection. No, this was the kind that promised an imminent storm, a quiet before the thunderclap. Anya Sharma, a young waitress with deep brown eyes that held an indescribable sadness, moved gracefully and professionally between tables. Her movements were fluid, almost ethereal, a practiced dance honed by years of navigating crowded rooms and discerning palates. Each step was deliberate, a testament to her unwavering focus. She had worked here for over 2 years, a quiet fixture amidst the opulent decor, enduring scrutinizing glances and whispered prejudices, the subtle, insidious kind that clung to the edges of her awareness like a damp fog. But she had never let them shake her focus, her unwavering commitment to excellence. Tonight, however, felt different. An electric anticipation, or perhaps dread, prickled at her skin, a premonition that something significant, something life-altering, was about to unfold. A special guest had arrived. Caleb Thorne, a notorious billionaire from New York City. His name alone conjured images of ruthless ambition and unchecked power, a man whose wealth seemed to grant him immunity from common decency. He was known for his arrogance, his outrageous remarks, and a reputation that preceded him like a dark cloud, chilling the air around him. As he was seated at the corner table, his presence seemed to suck the very air out of the opulent dining room. He was a man accustomed to commanding attention, and tonight he owned it, his sharp, expensive suit a stark contrast to the quiet elegance of the room. Anya approached his table, her silver tray held steady, her professional smile firmly in place, a mask she had perfected over years of service. Her heart gave a nervous flutter, not from fear, not exactly, but from a deep, ingrained weariness. She had faced men like him before, men who saw her not as a person, but as a backdrop, a disposable part of the scenery, or worse, an inconvenience to their privileged existence. His icy gaze swept over Anya as she neared, a sneer evident on his lips. He made no effort to hide his contempt, his eyes narrowing as if her very presence was an affront. "Good evening, sir," Anya began, her voice smooth and practiced, a calm counterpoint to the rising tension. "Welcome to the Crescent Bloom. My name is Anya, and I'll be your server this evening." Caleb leaned back in his plush velvet chair, a smirk playing on his lips. His eyes, cold, calculating, devoid of warmth, raked over her from head to toe, lingering for a moment too long. "Who are you?" he asked, his tone dripping with condescension, as if the very act of speaking to her was a profound condescension, a chore beneath his station. His words, though simple, felt like a slap across her face, a deliberate attempt to diminish her. Anya felt a cold current run down her spine, a familiar chill that spoke of past hurts, of countless moments where her worth had been questioned. But she maintained her professional smile, her hands gripping the silver tray tightly, the knuckles turning white under the strain. She was accustomed to derogatory remarks, the casual dismissals, the subtle slights that chipped away at one's spirit. But Caleb's blatant, brazen contempt, so openly displayed in this elegant setting, before a room full of witnesses, left her deeply hurt, a raw wound to her quiet dignity. "As I said, sir," Anya replied, her voice unwavering despite the tremor in her heart, a testament to her inner strength. "My name is Anya Sharma. I'm here to ensure your dining experience is exceptional." She held his gaze, a silent challenge in her steady brown eyes. Caleb merely grunted, a dismissive sound that grated on her nerves, a sound that conveyed utter disinterest. He then began to complain about everything, from the ambient lighting being too garish to the jazz music, usually a soothing backdrop, being excessively loud. His complaints were trivial, petty, yet his true target was clearly Anya. He continuously made remarks alluding to her skin color, subtle yet sharp words that pierced through her practiced composure, designed to sting. "I expect a certain caliber of service," Caleb drawled, his gaze fixed on her, a predatory glint in his eye, "when I dine at establishments of this reputation. Not some cheap display of so-called diversity." He emphasized the word diversity with a sneer, his voice laced with venom, his eyes full of contempt, sweeping over Anya as though she were a cheap trinket, an unwanted ornament. Anya felt as if a knife was cutting into her self-esteem, twisting with each venomous word. Her deep brown eyes, usually bright with warmth, now clouded with a mix of pain and shame. Yet her lips stayed firmly pressed together, refusing to betray weakness, refusing to give him the satisfaction. She stood tall, her shoulders squared, her eyes fixed on Caleb, refusing to give him the satisfaction of seeing her break. From the corner of her eye, Anya saw pity, surprise, and confusion flit across the faces of other diners. A middle-aged woman in a crimson silk dress leaned toward her companion, whispering urgently, her hand covering her mouth in shock, while an elderly couple at a distant table exchanged worried glances, their expressions etched with concern. No one dared speak. The tension in the room was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife, as if a single cough might shatter the fragile moment, unleashing the full force of the brewing storm. Marcus Thorne, the restaurant manager and Caleb's older brother, stood off to the side, his face ashen and stunned. He had never imagined witnessing such a tense, sensitive scene in his own establishment, especially under his watch. His hands clenched and unclenched at his sides, a silent battle raging within him. He knew his brother's temperament, volatile, unpredictable, and utterly devoid of empathy, and didn't want to cause more trouble, but his inaction felt like a profound betrayal, a silent complicity. He offered Anya a silent, desperate plea with his eyes, a silent apology for his brother's monstrous behavior, a plea for her to endure. Anya felt the pressure weighing on her shoulders, a crushing burden that threatened to suffocate her, to drag her down into the depths of despair. Each breath became harder than the last, a shallow gasp for air. She had endured accidental or offhand slights about her skin color her whole life, the casual racism that was a constant companion, but she had never faced such overt, merciless public humiliation. As Caleb's tirade bore down on her, she felt on the brink of collapse, her legs trembling, her vision blurring, until a flicker of strength surged through her, a defiant spark in the darkness. The image of her tiny daughter, Zara, flashed in her mind, Zara's determined smile, her dreams of ballet, her bright, innocent future. That image, a tiny beacon in the pitch-black darkness, gave Anya the unwavering resolve she needed. She would not let this man, this arrogant, prejudiced man, take away her dignity, her livelihood, her very spirit, not when Zara was counting on her, not when her future depended on Anya standing tall. The cruel words of Caleb Thorne still resonated in Anya's mind, a discordant echo against the quiet hum of the restaurant. But then, the image of her daughter, Zara, shone more clearly than ever, a tiny, radiant light in the pitch-black darkness of her life. In that humiliating moment, a profound realization solidified within Anya. She remembered why she had pushed herself to the brink of exhaustion to stay at the Crescent Bloom, a place where biased stares and cutting remarks were an everyday threat. It wasn't just a job, it was a lifeline. Anya Sharma's life had never been strewn with rose petals. Born and raised in the lower Ninth Ward, a resilient but often overlooked neighborhood on the fringes of New Orleans's opulence, she was all too familiar with narrow, cracked streets, dusty old apartment buildings, and crowded sidewalks that rarely felt safe or welcoming. The vibrant, soulful music of the city often masked a deeper struggle, a constant fight for dignity in a world that seemed determined to deny it. From an early age, Anya understood discrimination. It wasn't always overt, but it was omnipresent. She remembered classmates mocking her hair, teachers doubting her abilities with a dismissive wave of the hand, and suspicious glances from adults whenever she stepped into a pristine store outside her neighborhood. "Are you sure you belong here, sweetie?" a shopkeeper had once asked, her voice saccharine, her eyes cold. Anya's parents were simple laborers, her mother, a seamstress working long hours in a cramped workshop, her father, a dock worker whose hands were calloused from years of heavy lifting. They spent their lives working tirelessly for every penny, every meal, every worn-out pair of shoes for Anya and her two younger brothers. Yet, no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't break free from the cycle of poverty and prejudice that ensnared their community. Anya grew up believing that only education and hard work could rewrite her fate. She devoured books, finding solace and escape in stories that transported her beyond her grim reality. She graduated high school with honors, her academic achievements a defiant middle finger to every person who had doubted her. Her dream, however, was not just academic. She dreamed of becoming a professional ballet dancer, a graceful, ethereal escape from the gritty streets she knew. She spent countless hours practicing in a small community center, her body aching, her spirit soaring with every pirouette. But life rarely goes according to plan, especially for those born into struggle. At 20, Anya discovered she was unexpectedly pregnant by a boyfriend she trusted completely, a charming, smooth-talking boy named Julian. The moment he learned the truth, his charm evaporated, replaced by a cold, panicked indifference. He abandoned her, leaving Anya alone to face the harsh criticism from family and neighbors. "You've ruined your life, Anya," her aunt had wailed, her words like daggers. Cruel nicknames trailed her through the streets, and rumor-filled whispers chased her wherever she went, painting her as a cautionary tale. "She's just another one," she heard a neighbor murmur, another girl from that side of town making those choices. Still, Anya refused to give up her child. She felt an immediate, fierce love for the life growing inside her, a love that dwarfed all the judgment and hardship. She believed her daughter deserved to live and to be loved, no matter how harsh the world could be. She would be a mother, and she would be a good one. Zara's birth marked the most profound turning point in Anya's life. The moment she first gazed into that tiny, innocent face, a mirror of her own deep brown eyes, a promise of unwritten possibilities, she knew she had no choice but to become stronger than ever. The vulnerability of her child ignited a fire within her, a fierce, protective instinct that burned away any lingering self-pity. Anya took every job she could find, no matter how grueling or demeaning. Waitressing at greasy diners where the smell of stale grease clung to her clothes, cleaning offices overnight when the city slept, even doing laundry by hand for local families who paid her meagerly. Every dollar came at the cost of sweat and tears, each coin a testament to her relentless will. Yet, bills piled up faster than she could pay. Old debts lurked just around the corner, always threatening to pull her under the crushing weight of poverty, a constant shadow over her meager existence. But the deepest wounds weren't financial. They lay in the constant, gnawing need to prove her worth in a prejudiced society. She always told herself that by working harder, by striving continuously, by excelling in every task, she would force people to see her value. Not her skin color, not her background, but her inherent worth as a human being. The crescent bloom was supposed to be the culmination of that struggle, the place where her talent and dedication would finally shine, where she could build a better life for Zara. And now, Caleb Thorne threatened to shatter it all. After years of struggling with temporary jobs, each one a desperate scramble for survival, a relentless pursuit of enough to keep Zara fed and clothed, an unexpected opportunity arose. It arrived like a whisper carried on the humid New Orleans breeze, a position as a waitress at the Crescent Bloom. This wasn't just any restaurant. It was one of the city's most luxurious and prestigious establishments, a beacon of fine dining nestled amidst the vibrant, historic architecture of the French Quarter. For Anya, it was more than a job. It was a doorway to another world, a chance, a real, tangible chance, to escape the suffocating cycle of poverty and prejudice that had defined her existence. The application process was grueling, the interviews meticulous, designed to weed out all but the most polished and poised. Anya poured every ounce of her being into it, drawing on a resilience forged in the fires of hardship. She spent weeks practicing, late into the night after Zara was asleep, memorizing the complex menu, each obscure ingredient, every intricate preparation. She drilled herself on strict serving protocols, the precise angle of a wine pour, the subtle art of anticipating a guest's unspoken needs. The refined etiquette required in such a high-end environment felt alien, a language she had to learn from scratch, but she was a quick study, driven by a powerful, singular purpose. On her first day, Anya felt a dizzying mix of excitement and raw, trembling nervousness. The polished marble floors seemed to stretch endlessly, the chandeliers sparkled with a blinding brilliance, and the hushed elegance of the dining room felt both awe-inspiring and intimidating. She knew this was the biggest opportunity of her life, a fragile chance at a better future for Zara, and she couldn't afford to fail. Failure wasn't an option, it was a luxury she couldn't afford. However, the working environment at the Crescent Bloom, despite its outward glamour, was not entirely rosy. Beneath the veneer of sophistication, societal prejudices still festered. Some of her white colleagues, especially those who had worked there for a long time, greeted her with a chilling coldness, a subtle disdain that spoke volumes without a single word. Anya often overheard whispers, hushed conversations that died abruptly when she passed. "She's only here because of the new diversity initiative," she once heard a hostess, Bethany, murmur to another waiter, Liam, her voice laced with thinly veiled contempt. "Not exactly the usual caliber, is she?" Liam, a young man with kind eyes, had merely shrugged, avoiding Anya's gaze. These comments, though indirect, were like tiny, persistent needles, pricking at her resolve. They suggested she was hired not for her merit, her tireless effort, but as a token, a check mark on a corporate form. Anya refused to let their quiet hostility define her. She had to work twice as hard, prove herself tenfold, just to be seen as equal. Every morning, she arrived 2 hours early, long before the first chef stirred in the kitchen, to meticulously inspect every detail of her station. She polished every crystal glass until it sparkled like a diamond, arranged cutlery with geometric precision, and ensured every napkin was folded flawlessly. She studied the seating charts, memorized guest preferences, and learned to read customers' subtle cues, anticipating their needs before they even spoke. "Anya, you're a mind reader." A rare, genuinely kind guest once joked, and the compliment, though small, had warmed her. Despite being treated coldly, often isolated in the bustling back-of house, Anya maintained her unwavering professionalism and dedicated service. She believed that her persistence, her undeniable talent, would eventually be recognized, that her hard work would speak louder than any whispered prejudice. One of the most demanding customers Anya frequently faced was Mrs. Montgomery, a wealthy elderly woman with a condescending attitude that could curdle milk. Mrs. Montgomery's table was always a gauntlet. She would complain about everything, from the food temperature being lukewarm to the presentation being utterly uninspired, even when the chef himself had personally overseen the plate. "Are you sure you understood the order, dear?" Mrs. Montgomery would ask, her voice saccharine, her eyes sharp. "Or perhaps some things are just beyond your grasp." Anya would respond politely, her voice even, a practiced smile masking the deep inner hurt. "I assure you, madam," Anya would say, "the dish was prepared to our exact standards. May I offer you something else?" She knew that every challenge, every veiled remark was an opportunity to prove her worth, not only for herself, but also for her daughter Zara, to whom she always wanted to provide a future free from such indignities. Zara's innocent face, her bright, hopeful eyes, were Anya's constant fuel, a silent promise that kept her standing tall, even when her spirit felt bruised. A busy evening at the Crescent Bloom suddenly grew tense, the usual elegant hum replaced by a subtle undercurrent of anxiety. Marcus Thorne, the restaurant manager, paced near the kitchen entrance, his jaw tight, his eyes darting nervously towards the main dining room. The reason for his unease soon became clear. Caleb Thorne, his brother, was expected to dine there tonight. Caleb was not just a VIP client, he was the bane of the entire staff, a walking storm cloud of arrogance and openly disdainful remarks. His reputation preceded him like a foul odor, a constant reminder of the power he wielded and his willingness to use it. Anya felt a surge of cold dread. She had heard plenty about Caleb's antics, his notoriety in New York's elite circles, and his racially prejudiced behavior that had, on more than one occasion, made headlines. She desperately hoped she wouldn't have to serve his table. The thought alone made her stomach clench. Marcus, his face pale with apprehension, had assigned Liam, a young, earnest waiter with a perpetually hopeful glint in his kind eyes, to serve Caleb's table. Liam, though nervous, seemed determined to do his job well, perhaps even to impress the notoriously difficult billionaire. He meticulously prepared every detail, from precisely arranging the crisp napkins to checking the subtle glow of the table lamp. He was a whirlwind of quiet efficiency, his movements precise, his focus absolute. "Just breathe, Liam," Anya had murmured to him earlier, seeing the tension etched on his face. "He's just another customer, a rich, loud one, but still just a customer." Liam had managed a weak smile. "Easy for you to say, Anya, you handle Mrs. Montgomery like she's a saint." "Practice," Anya had replied, a wry twist to her lips. Lots and lots of practice, but even practice couldn't prepare Liam for the unforeseen. Just as he was pushing a gleaming silver tray laden with chilled champagne flutes and a magnum of vintage bubbly towards Caleb's table, disaster struck. Stepping into the kitchen to fetch additional glasses, his foot slipped on a stray lemon wedge, a tiny, innocuous piece of fruit that became an instrument of chaos. He cried out, a sharp, choked sound as he lost his balance, crashing to the polished floor with a sickening thud. The tray flew from his grasp, shattering in a spray of glittering glass shards and spilled champagne, the effervescent liquid fizzing across the pristine tile. Every head in the kitchen turned, then every head in the dining room. The clatter was deafening in the sudden silence. Liam clutched his ankle, pain contorting his young face, surrounded by the sparkling, dangerous debris. Marcus rushed over, his face a mask of panic, trying to reassure Liam while simultaneously assessing the damage. "Are you all right, son?" Marcus asked, his voice tight with concern. "Can you stand?" Liam shook his head, wincing. I think I twisted it. Mr. Thorne, it really hurts." Marcus's gaze swept the room, desperation clouding his features. The restaurant was nearly full, and Caleb Thorne's table was now unattended, a gaping hole in the carefully orchestrated evening. There was no one else, not a single available server who could step in immediately. His eyes, wide with a mixture of dread and resignation, finally landed on Anya. "Anya," Marcus said, his voice trembling, barely above a whisper, "you have to serve Caleb's table tonight. There's no one else." "Please, Anya, we're in a bind." Anya felt her heart tighten, a cold knot forming in her stomach. This was her worst nightmare made real, a cruel twist of fate. She knew facing Caleb wouldn't be easy. It would be a gauntlet of insults, a test of her every nerve, but she had no other choice. Zara's face, her innocent smile, flashed before her eyes once more. She took a deep, steadying breath, steeling herself for the inevitable. Her composure, a hard-won shield, clicked back into place. As Anya approached Caleb's table, her steps deliberate, her expression neutral, he looked up. His eyes, a chilling shade of blue, narrowed with clear contempt and profound disappointment. He made no effort to hide his displeasure that his server for the evening was a woman of color, especially after his earlier thinly veiled remarks. His gaze was a physical weight, pressing down on her. Caleb tilted his head, a slow, deliberate movement, appraising Anya from head to toe as if her very presence in this luxurious restaurant was an affront to his status, a stain on his perfectly curated evening. A slow, chilling smile spread across his lips, devoid of humor. "What was your name again?" Caleb asked, his voice like ice, each syllable drawn out, elongated, as if bestowing a rare courtesy upon someone utterly unworthy of his attention. The question wasn't a genuine inquiry. It was a prelude, a deliberate act of power, a subtle declaration of war. Anya knew, with a certainty that chilled her to the bone, that the night was far from over. The confrontation between Anya and Caleb Thorne began, not with a roar, but with a chilling, calculated precision. From the moment Anya started taking his order, Caleb's voice, though outwardly calm, became a weapon. He continuously made derogatory remarks, not only about the service, the tepid water, the uninspired bread, but also, and more pointedly, directly targeting her skin color. His words were veiled, insidious, yet unmistakable. "I'm accustomed to a certain level of refinement," Caleb drawled, his gaze fixed on her, his eyes like chips of ice. "One expects it, especially in a place like this, not a cheap display of so-called diversity." He lingered on the word diversity, twisting it into an insult, his lip curling in a sneer. He insinuated that she was not qualified to work in a high-end restaurant like the Crescent Bloom, that her presence was merely a performative gesture, a token. Anya felt her hands tremble as she poured his wine, the ruby liquid shimmering precariously in the crystal glass. Every fiber of her being screamed to retort, to lash out, but years of ingrained professionalism, of biting her tongue for Zara's sake, held her back. She managed to keep a polite, almost serene smile on her face. "Sir," she replied, her voice smooth, remarkably steady, "I have been trained as thoroughly as every other server here to the highest standards of the Crescent Bloom." Each word was laden with her silent hurt, a heavy weight that pressed against her chest. But Caleb, a predator sensing weakness, didn't stop there. When Anya delivered the appetizer, a meticulously plated scallop dish, a work of art from the kitchen, he eyed the perfectly arranged plate, then looked back at her with a sardonic smirk. "I do hope you won't drop anything on my table," he said, his tone dripping with mock concern. "One wouldn't want to ruin such pristine linen, would one?" His eyes flickered to her hands, then back to her face, a clear insinuation of clumsiness, of incompetence. His cruel words, though spoken in a low, controlled tone, seemed to echo throughout the restaurant, chilling the already tense atmosphere. Anya felt her heart tighten, the cold, painful knot forming in her chest. Each breath became harder than the last, a shallow, desperate gasp for air. She had endured accidental or offhand slights about her skin color her whole life, the casual racism that was a constant, dull ache. But she had never faced such overt, merciless public humiliation, a deliberate assault on her dignity. As Caleb's tirade bore down on her, a suffocating weight of contempt, Anya felt on the brink of collapse. Her legs trembled, a faint tremor running through her body. Her vision blurred at the edges, hot tears pricking behind her eyelids. She was so close to breaking, to letting the mask slip, to crumbling under the relentless pressure. Then a flicker of strength surged through her, a defiant spark in the suffocating darkness. The image of Zara, her tiny daughter, flashed in her mind, Zara's determined smile, her dreams of ballet, her bright, innocent future. That image, a tiny beacon in the pitch-black darkness of her despair, gave Anya a glimmer of inner resolve. She knew with absolute certainty that Caleb craved that very display of weakness that he wanted to see her shatter. And she would not give him the satisfaction. Taking a slow, steadying breath that felt like a monumental effort, Anya smoothed her uniform, her hands regaining their composure. She straightened her shoulders, a silent act of defiance, and stepped back into the dining room, her gaze fixed on a point beyond Caleb, determined that neither he nor anyone else would ever shatter her spirit. From behind the kitchen door, where a few sympathetic colleagues peeked out, she could almost hear Caleb's contemptuous words echoing, though he spoke them directly to her. "I don't understand how a prestigious restaurant like the Crescent Bloom can have someone like you serving me." He scoffed, his voice laced with the same venom she'd heard before. "You're here to bolster the restaurant's diversity image, aren't you? Don't be naive, girl." His naked contempt didn't just insult her. It struck at the very foundation of her last fragile hope, that despite the world's injustices, there was still room for decency and dignity, that hard work could truly break down barriers. Standing in what was supposed to be New Orleans' most exclusive dining room, Anya Sharma realized she had reached her absolute limit. The next move, she knew, would be hers. The atmosphere in the Crescent Bloom became thick, almost suffocating, with all eyes, both discreet and openly curious, fixed on Caleb Thorne's table and Anya. A hushed anticipation, a collective holding of breath, filled the space. Caleb, emboldened by the silence, continued his assault, his voice a low, dangerous growl. He continued to attack Anya with disdainful remarks, his words like venom, claiming she was utterly unworthy of serving him, of even existing in the same rarefied air. "You think you belong here, girl?" Caleb sneered, his lip curling in disgust. "Serving me? Do you even know who I am? I could buy and sell this entire establishment with you in it before breakfast." He challenged her, his tone laced with a chilling arrogance. "You'll regret daring to oppose me, Anya Sharma. You'll soon learn the biggest mistake of your life was standing up to me." His words were a chilling curse, a promise of ruin in the suffocating quiet. Anya's heart pounded in her chest, a frantic drumbeat against her ribs. Fear, cold and sharp, pricked at her. But beneath it, a different emotion began to surge, a fierce, unyielding defiance. She stood firm, her feet rooted to the polished floor, her shoulders squared. She looked directly into Caleb's cold, contemptuous eyes, refusing to flinch, refusing to give him the satisfaction of seeing her break. And in that moment, a crucial decision, a pivotal understanding, formed in her mind. This wasn't just about her. She was not just fighting for herself, but for the dignity of all those like her, who had been belittled and scorned, cast aside by men like Caleb Thorne. This was a battle far larger than one table, one restaurant, with a clear and calm voice, a voice that, despite a slight quiver, remained remarkably steady. Anya replied, word by word as if they were etched into the very air, destined to resonate long after they were spoken. Mr. Thorne, you can buy a steak, yes, a very expensive one at that, but you cannot buy kindness. Her gaze intensified, unwavering, and you certainly cannot buy respect. That sentence, delivered with quiet power, echoing in the deathly silence of the restaurant, struck Caleb's arrogance like a lightning bolt. He was stunned into silence, his face flushing crimson with a rage that bordered on apoplectic, his eyes bloodshot, bulging slightly. The entire restaurant held its breath, a collective gasp rippling through the room. Caleb Thorne, the powerful man who always controlled every narrative, every interaction, suddenly found himself utterly powerless before the powerful and dignified response of a waitress. He had expected tears, apologies, a swift retreat. He got defiance. He slammed his fist on the table, a violent, rattling sound that made the delicate crystalware jump. A ruby-red wine glass, already precariously balanced, toppled, crashing to the pristine white tablecloth and staining it with a spreading crimson bloom. "What did you just say to me, girl?" He roared, his voice a guttural snarl, each syllable dripping with pure, unadulterated disdain. "How dare you insult me here? Do you even know who I am?" Though her heart pounded, a frantic hummingbird trapped in her chest, Anya stood firm. Her voice remained steady, a quiet force against his bluster. "I know exactly who you are, Mr. Thorne," she replied, her gaze unwavering, "but that doesn't give you the right to insult or demean anyone. I am here to work, and I deserve to be treated with respect, just like anyone else." Caleb's glare sharpened, his eyes narrowing to slits, and he drew in a strained, ragged breath, as if struggling for air. He tried to regain control, to find a cutting remark, a witty retort, but his usual arsenal of insults seemed to fail him. He looked around the room, his gaze sweeping across the faces of the diners, noticing the judging and contemptuous stares now openly directed at him. A few tables, unable to bear the escalating tension, had quietly asked for their checks and slipped out, eager to escape the awkward confrontation, their faces a mix of shock and quiet admiration for Anya. Finally, without another word, a vein throbbing visibly in his temple, Caleb Thorne stood up. He cast one last furious, venomous look at Anya, a silent promise of retribution, then turned abruptly and stormed out of the restaurant, leaving behind a heavy atmosphere, a chaotic, wine-stained table, and a stunned silence that slowly, gradually, began to give way to a soft murmur of whispers and sympathetic glances aimed Anya's way. The air, though still charged, now felt different, lighter perhaps with the departure of the storm. The very next morning, the quiet hum of Anya's modest apartment was shattered by the incessant buzzing of her phone. She woke with a start, her eyes still heavy from a restless night, and reached for the device on her nightstand. What she saw made her almost drop it. The screen was a chaotic symphony of notifications, missed calls, new messages, social media alerts, all pouring into her inbox like a digital flood. She was almost stunned by the sheer volume. An anonymous diner, it turned out, had recorded the entire confrontation between Anya and Caleb Thorne at the Crescent Bloom, and with remarkable speed, posted it online that very night. Within hours, the short clip had gone viral, a wildfire spreading across the internet, racking up millions of views and thousands of shares on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Hashtags #StandWithAnya and #RespectService exploded onto trending topics, attracting national attention, pulling Anya's private ordeal into the harsh glare of the public eye. Initially, Anya felt a profound shock, quickly followed by a wave of cold, paralyzing fear. She was used to the invisible pressure of prejudice, the subtle weight of being judged for her skin color. But now, the glare of media and public scrutiny was far, far more terrifying. Her name, her face, her most humiliating moment, all laid bare for the world to consume, dissect, and judge. Insults and threats on social media, venomous comments from anonymous accounts left her uneasy, a constant knot of anxiety in her stomach. She felt perpetually on edge whenever she stepped outside, her senses heightened, every shadow a potential threat. Her once safe sanctuary of home no longer felt secure, with reporters, hungry for a story, for her story, staking out her building, digging for every detail of her and Zara's personal life. She felt exposed, vulnerable like a raw nerve. "Mama, who are all those people outside?" Zara had asked innocently that morning, pointing to the cluster of cameras and microphones. Anya had to force a smile, her heart aching with a fierce, protective love. "Just some curious folks, baby," she had said, pulling Zara closer. "Nothing for you to worry about." However, amidst the overwhelming negativity and fear, Anya also received a strong, unexpected wave of support. Thousands of encouraging messages poured in from strangers, from fellow service workers, from people who had experienced similar injustices. Praises for her courage and resilience flooded her DMs and comment sections. "You spoke for all of us." One message read, from a woman named Maria who worked as a barista in Seattle. "Thank you for standing your ground." Others shared their own stories of discrimination, creating a powerful, unspoken solidarity with Anya. She realized that her small but courageous act of standing up had resonated deeply with countless others, igniting a broad, long-overdue conversation about injustices and prejudices that had been ignored for too long. Anya spent hours reading these messages, tears welling in her eyes, not just from the pain of the negative comments, but from the overwhelming warmth of solidarity. She felt a profound sense of connection, a realization that her struggle was not hers alone. This digital storm, though terrifying, was also a powerful force for good, a spotlight illuminating the darkness. Whatever challenges and uncertainties the future might hold, Anya knew with a newfound clarity that she had no choice but to keep moving forward, to stand strong, to fight on, not only for herself and Zara, but for the millions watching her, for every voice that had been silenced, for every dignity that had been trampled. The fight had just begun, and she was, unexpectedly, its reluctant champion. Amidst the raging digital storm, the relentless buzz of her phone, and the unsettling presence of reporters outside her apartment, Anya received unexpected support from those she least expected. It was a lifeline, a testament to the ripple effect of her courage. Marcus Thorne, the restaurant manager and Caleb's older brother, was the first to reach out directly. He arrived at Anya's apartment building, bypassing the media circus with a grim determination. His face, usually a picture of controlled composure, was etched with a profound sense of shame and regret. He looked exhausted, haunted. Anya, still wary, let him in, her eyes questioning. "Anya," Marcus said, his voice low, raw with emotion, I am so deeply sorry for what Caleb did, for what I allowed to happen. He's my brother, yes, but his actions were inexcusable." He paused, running a hand through his already disheveled hair. "I felt ashamed, Anya. Ashamed of him, and ashamed of myself for not stepping in sooner." He revealed the insidious pressures Caleb had exerted on the restaurant, threats of financial ruin, of pulling investments, of tarnishing the Crescent Bloom's reputation if Marcus ever dared to cross him. "He's always been like this, a bully with too much power, but this time, This time he went too far. Marcus pledged, his voice firm, "I will do everything in my power to protect you, Anya. Everything." He spoke not just as her manager, but as a man seeking redemption. Soon after, Serafina Dubois, the owner of the Crescent Bloom, a woman known for her quiet strength and unwavering principles, called an emergency meeting with all staff. The atmosphere in the staff lounge was tense, a mix of fear and simmering resentment. Serafina stood before them, her presence commanding attention without a single raised voice. She publicly declared her full, unequivocal support for Anya, her words cutting through the apprehension like a sharp knife. "The Crescent Bloom," Serafina stated, her voice clear and resonant, "will never tolerate any form of racism, discrimination, or contempt towards our staff or our guests. Never." Her gaze swept across the room, meeting each employee's eyes. "Anya Sharma is a valued member of our family. She acted with immense courage and dignity. This restaurant is a place that upholds integrity, where every team member is respected and protected. Period." Her words empowered Anya, a surge of warmth spreading through her chest, and received enthusiastic applause from the staff, many of whom had quietly admired Anya's stand. Liam, the waiter who had caused the champagne mishap, approached Anya after the meeting, his eyes filled with respect. "You were incredible, Anya," he said, his voice hushed. "Truly inspiring." Beyond the walls of the Crescent Bloom, the support for Anya swelled into a powerful tide. The people of New Orleans, especially the vibrant and resilient community of color, organized peaceful protests outside the restaurant. They carried hand-painted banners with slogans like #Anya is our hero and #Justice for Anya, their voices rising in a harmonious chorus of solidarity. Local civil rights organizations and social activists, recognizing the profound impact of Anya's story, began contacting her, offering legal and public support, eager to champion her cause. "Your voice, Anya," a prominent community leader, Reverend Silas Green, told her during a phone call, "is echoing across the nation. This isn't just your fight anymore, it's our fight." Anya felt profoundly moved and grateful for this overwhelming wave of support. It was a stark contrast to the isolation she had often felt. She realized, with a clarity that brought tears to her eyes, that she was not alone in this fight. Her personal struggle had become a catalyst, a rallying cry for countless others. However, Caleb Thorne, a man whose ego was as vast as his fortune, did not give up easily. He saw Anya's burgeoning public support not as a moral victory, but as a personal affront, a challenge to his absolute authority. He began to use his immense influence and wealth to retaliate, a silent, insidious war waged from the shadows. He pressured the Crescent Bloom's suppliers, threatening to cut off contracts worth millions if they continued to cooperate with the restaurant. "You do business with them," his lawyers would subtly imply, "and you risk losing our business." He also hired a formidable team of high-powered lawyers and PR specialists, not just to defend himself, but to actively try and tarnish Anya's and Serafina's reputations, attempting to twist the narrative, to turn the story into a complex, drawn-out legal battle designed to drain their resources and their spirit. The battle was no longer confined to the restaurant. It had expanded into a larger, more dangerous arena where the brute force of power and money confronted the fragile, yet unyielding, spirit of dignity and justice. Anya knew this was just the beginning of a much longer, harder fight. As the conflict between Anya and Caleb Thorne escalated, a bitter, high-stakes war waged across media, public opinion, and now the legal landscape. A powerful figure unexpectedly emerged to change the tide. It was a hand from a realm even higher than Caleb's, a force driven not by ego, but by a profound commitment to justice. Elias Vance, a billionaire tech magnate based in the sun-drenched, innovative hub of San Francisco, had been following Anya's story intently. Unlike Caleb, Elias was renowned for his philanthropy and his unwavering commitment to social justice, his name synonymous with groundbreaking initiatives that uplifted marginalized communities. He had watched the viral video of Anya's confrontation, his sharp mind dissecting Caleb's cruel words, his empathetic heart stirred by Anya's quiet defiance. He was deeply impressed by her courage and resilience, qualities he valued above all else. Elias believed, with a conviction that bordered on spiritual, that Anya's story was not just a fleeting news cycle. It was a potent, living example of the systemic injustice many vulnerable workers faced daily. He saw in her not just a victim, but a symbol, a catalyst for real change. He wanted to use his vast influence, his considerable resources, to amplify her voice and create a ripple effect that would extend far beyond New Orleans. Through his extensive network, Elias reached out to Serafina Dubois and Marcus Thorne. The request for a meeting was discreet, yet carried the weight of his reputation. The meeting itself took place in a formal yet surprisingly warm atmosphere, a private suite in a discreet, historic hotel nestled away from the media frenzy in New Orleans. Anya, initially anxious and disbelieving that someone of Elias Vance's stature would even know her name, let alone want to meet her, was reassured by Marcus and Serafina. "He's different, Anya," Marcus had insisted, his voice earnest. "Trust me on this." When Elias Vance finally appeared, he was nothing like Caleb Thorne. There was no arrogance, no aloofness. Instead, he radiated a calm, approachable demeanor, his eyes, kind and intelligent, holding a profound sense of empathy. He was dressed simply, elegantly, but without the ostentation of a man flaunting his wealth. He shook Anya's hand firmly, his grip warm and reassuring. "Ms. Sharma," Elias began, his voice deep and measured, a soothing balm after the recent chaos, "I've been following your story. I watched the video of your encounter with Mr. Thorne, and I must tell you I was profoundly moved. Not just by his deplorable behavior, but by your extraordinary courage." He leaned forward slightly, his gaze unwavering. True courage is rare these days, especially when one faces such overwhelming power and wealth. You possess it, Ms. Sharma, in abundance. He then laid out his proposition, a vision that seemed almost too grand to be real. He offered Anya the role of face and main spokesperson for a new, ambitious initiative of his, Project Compassion. This project, he explained, was not merely a charitable fund. It was a large, comprehensive advocacy organization, backed by substantial financial resources, established to protect the rights and dignity of vulnerable workers across the nation, especially those facing discrimination in the workplace. Project Compassion's goal was multifaceted: to raise awareness through powerful storytelling, to provide robust legal and financial support for victims of workplace discrimination, and to actively promote fairer policies and legislation nationwide. Anya felt utterly overwhelmed by this offer. Her mind reeled. She recalled memories of raising Zara alone in their humble apartment, the gnawing pain of prejudice and discrimination, the small yet brave moment at the Crescent Bloom that had inadvertently launched her into this whirlwind. Could she truly be the voice for such a monumental cause? Could she, Anya Sharma, a waitress from the lower Ninth Ward, stand on such a grand stage? She looked at Elias, her eyes sparkling with unshed tears, but also alight with a new, fierce resolve. "Mr. Vance," she said, her voice a little shaky but resolute, "I am truly grateful for this remarkable opportunity. I never imagined someone like me could play such a meaningful role. I just worry I might not be enough. I'm just a waitress." Elias gently shook his head, a kind smile gracing his lips. "Anya, he said, using her first name, a gesture of genuine respect. Your greatest strength isn't your title or your past. It's your sincerity, your unwavering moral compass, and your ability to inspire. You have already done that, Anya, without money or power. That is precisely what this world desperately needs: authentic voices, courageous hearts. This meeting, this unexpected offer from Elias Vance, entrusted Anya with a monumental responsibility, a burden as heavy as it was hopeful. It was an opportunity to change not just her own life, but the lives of millions of vulnerable workers out there, to turn her personal pain into a powerful force for collective good. She felt like she had walked through a grand, imposing doorway. Behind her lay days of quiet routine, of hidden struggles and whispered slights. Ahead lay a meaningful, daunting journey, a path she was now, incredibly, prepared to walk. After accepting the role of spokesperson for Project Compassion, Anya Sharma's life was once again swept into the whirlpool of public scrutiny and relentless media attention. The transition was jarring, a dizzying leap from the hushed elegance of the crescent bloom to the blinding flashbulbs of national television. She had to quickly adapt to a demanding, often exhausting, schedule. Back-to-back interviews with major news outlets, high-pressure press conferences where every word was dissected, and a whirlwind of trips to different cities across the country to speak at events and meet with lawmakers. From a humble waitress, Anya was now, almost overnight, a national symbol of courage and justice. Her face, once known only to regulars at the restaurant, now graced the covers of national magazines. She appeared on morning talk shows, evening news segments, and in major newspapers, sharing her story with a raw honesty that resonated deeply. Her voice, once only heard in the dining room of the Crescent Bloom, now echoed across the country, stirring empathy and courage in countless people who had felt unseen, unheard. She spoke about the quiet dignity of labor, the insidious nature of prejudice, and the universal human need for respect. It's not just about me, Anya explained during a televised interview with a prominent journalist, her voice steady despite the bright lights and probing questions. It's about every person who's ever been made to feel less than because of who they are or what they do. It's about recognizing the humanity in everyone, regardless of their job title or their bank account. However, alongside the overwhelming wave of public support, Anya also began facing the harsh, brutal downside of fame and media power. Opponents, many harboring deeply ingrained racist views or directly aligned with Caleb Thorne's vested interests, launched insidious campaigns to discredit and defame her. On social media, she endured countless attacks, venomous comments, slanderous rumors, and false allegations suggesting she was exploiting the incident for money and fame. "She's just looking for a handout," one anonymous comment read. Another opportunist trying to cash in on a manufactured outrage. Although Anya had never sought fame or personal gain, her only desire had been to provide a stable, dignified life for Zara. These accusations still caused deep, searing hurt. They were a cruel echo of the prejudices she had fought her entire life, amplified by the digital age. Caleb Thorne, though publicly condemned and facing a growing backlash, was far from defeated. His ego, as vast as his fortune, saw Anya's burgeoning influence as a direct threat, a personal affront to his absolute authority. He continued his campaign against Anya from behind the scenes, a silent, insidious war waged through his vast network. He leveraged his political and business connections, applying immense pressure on potential partners and sponsors of Project Compassion. He subtly threatened to cut off lucrative contracts worth millions if they dared to align with Elias Vance's initiative. You do business with them, his highly paid lawyers would subtly imply during hushed phone calls, and you risk losing our business entirely. Think of the implications for your portfolio. He also hired a formidable team of high-powered media experts and PR specialists, not just to defend himself, but to actively try and tarnish Anya's and Serafina's reputations. They crafted misleading narratives, planted negative stories in obscure online publications, and attempted to twist the public perception, trying to paint Anya as a manipulative opportunist and Project Compassion as a politically motivated sham. Their goal was clear: to distort Anya's image, undermine her message, and drain the resources and spirit of the nascent movement. However, the more fiercely Caleb opposed her, the more public support and responsible corporate backing Anya garnered. Many large companies, impressed by Anya's unwavering integrity, her genuine sincerity, and Elias Vance's clear, impactful vision, committed to funding and partnering with Project Compassion. They saw an opportunity to align themselves with a powerful, positive social force. Anya, guided by Elias and his seasoned team, learned to navigate the complex, often treacherous, world of politics and media. She learned to filter out the noise, to respond with grace to the attacks, always maintaining her sincerity and focusing on the core mission of Project Compassion. She realized that this battle was not just about her personally. It was about a larger movement for justice and dignity for all, a fight that transcended individual grievances and aimed for systemic change. The path ahead was long and arduous, but Anya, no longer just a waitress, was ready to walk it. The confrontation between Anya and Caleb Thorne was not just a battle of public opinion, a war of words fought across headlines and social media feeds. It escalated into a tense, high-stakes legal and public fight, a true crucible of justice where the very foundations of power and privilege were challenged. Caleb Thorne, his pride wounded and his reputation hemorrhaging, was not one to back down. Through his formidable team of lawyers, a phalanx of sharp, expensive minds, he filed a sweeping lawsuit against Anya and the Crescent Bloom. The charges were defamation and damage to reputation, and the compensation demanded was astronomical, a sum designed to crush Anya, to bankrupt the restaurant, and to send a chilling message to anyone who dared to oppose him. He wanted to use his vast financial power not just to silence Anya's voice, but to make an example of her, to ensure no one else would ever replicate her defiance. This is a frivolous lawsuit designed to intimidate. Anya's lead attorney, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Elena Rodriguez, stated calmly during their first strategy meeting. "But we will fight it. We will expose him." Elias Vance's Project Compassion, true to its mission, quickly provided Anya with a top-tier legal team. Elena, along with a cadre of dedicated civil rights attorneys, committed themselves fully to fighting for justice. They were meticulous, relentless, and deeply passionate about the cause. The lawsuit attracted widespread national attention, becoming a landmark test case for issues of racial discrimination, workers' rights, and, crucially, the accountability of those in power. Every hearing, every motion was scrutinized by the press, broadcast live, and debated across the country. In the hearings, Anya faced intense, often brutal, cross-examination from Caleb's lawyers. They were masters of manipulation, attempting to twist her words, distort her actions, and paint her as a disgruntled employee seeking fame and fortune. M.S. Sharma, Caleb's lead counsel, a slick, smirking man named Mr. Harrington, pressed during one particularly grueling session, "Isn't it true you saw this incident as an opportunity? A chance to elevate your station?" But Anya, fortified by the unwavering support of her legal team and her own unyielding resilience, stood firm. She recounted her story truthfully, emotionally, her voice resonating with a quiet dignity that captivated the courtroom. She exposed the insidious discrimination she and countless others had endured, not just from Caleb, but from a system that often protected the powerful. Her testimony, televised live and meticulously transcribed, spread like wildfire across social media, touching the hearts of millions. Her words are our words. Read one viral tweet. She is fighting for all of us. Public support for Anya swelled, transforming into a roar of outrage against Caleb's behavior. Peaceful protests took place outside courthouses in cities across the nation, with people holding banners supporting Anya and calling for justice. Slogans like "dignity over dollars" and "justice for service workers" became common chants. Civil rights activists, celebrities, and thought leaders all spoke out in her favor, adding their voices to the growing chorus. The mounting public pressure began to have a tangible impact on Caleb Thorne and his vast network of business partners. Some large companies, wary of the negative publicity and concerned about their own image and reputation, began to quietly withdraw from agreements with Caleb's Thorne Corporation. The stock price of Thorne Corporation, once unshakable, began to fall, a slow, steady decline that sent tremors through the financial markets. Caleb, though still trying to maintain an indifferent facade, clearly began to feel the pressure, his carefully constructed empire showing its first cracks. Marcus Thorne, Caleb's brother, played a crucial, albeit agonizing, role. Torn between family loyalty and his own conscience, he ultimately chose justice. He provided invaluable inside information to Anya's legal team, revealing the full extent of Caleb's misconduct, his oppressive tactics, and his long history of abusing power. Marcus's testimony, delivered with a heavy heart but unwavering conviction, was a heavy blow to Caleb, significantly weakening his already crumbling lawsuit. "My brother," Marcus stated on the stand, his voice barely audible, "has always believed his wealth put him above the rules, but no one is above decency." The lawsuit was not just a legal battle, it was a moral one, a clash of fundamental values. And slowly, painstakingly, truth and justice gradually began to triumph over the brute force of power and money. The crucible had been hot, the pressure immense, but Anya Sharma was emerging, not just unscathed, but stronger, more resolute than ever. The legal battle concluded with a resounding victory for Anya Sharma. The court, after weeks of intense testimony and legal maneuvering, dismissed Caleb Thorne's frivolous lawsuit and ruled decisively in Anya's favor. The judge's verdict was clear. Anya had been subjected to blatant discrimination and had every right to protect her dignity. This ruling was not only a deeply personal triumph for Anya, a vindication of her strength and resilience, but also a significant, landmark milestone for Project Compassion and the broader anti-discrimination movement nationwide. It sent a powerful message. No one, not even a billionaire, was above accountability. To celebrate this monumental victory and to officially launch Project Compassion on a grand national scale, a magnificent ceremony was held at the Crescent Bloom itself. The restaurant, usually a haven of quiet luxury, was transformed into a vibrant, jubilant space. It was splendidly decorated with garlands of white and gold, the air buzzing with an electric energy of hope and triumph. Hundreds of attentive faces filled the room, a diverse tapestry of supporters. Sharp-eyed journalists, passionate social activists, influential business leaders, and countless ordinary people who had followed Anya's story and traveled from all over the country to witness this moment. On stage, Bathed in the soft glow of spotlights, Serafina Dubois stood beside Elias Vance, both looking at Anya with deep pride and profound admiration. Serafina's eyes, usually reserved, now sparkled with unshed tears of joy. Elias, a quiet force of nature, offered Anya a reassuring smile. A hush fell over the crowd as applause erupted, a wave of sound that swelled into a thunderous ovation as Anya stepped onto the podium. Her heart pounded in her chest, a mix of nerves and a steely, unshakable determination. She took a deep breath, letting the collective energy of the room wash over her. She looked out across the sea of faces, her gaze sweeping from the front row to the very back, meeting the eyes of strangers and friends alike. Then, she spoke into the microphone, her voice ringing out strong and clear, imbued with a genuine confidence that had been forged in the crucible of her past. "Tonight," Anya began, her words resonating through the room, "I return to the very place where a small, but deeply meaningful, moment changed my life forever. It was right here, in this beautiful restaurant, that I stood up against discrimination. Not just for myself, not just for my daughter, but for all those who have been scorned, belittled, or made to feel less than because of their skin color, their origin, or any of their unique characteristics." Her voice gained strength, carrying the immense weight and profound responsibility of her message. "I want everyone here to understand that fighting injustice and prejudice is not just someone else's duty. It's all of ours. When we remain silent in the face of injustice, we become complicit. We allow the darkness to spread." She paused, her eyes shining with conviction. "But when we speak up, when we stand for truth, and when we protect each other's dignity, we harness an extraordinary power, a power that can truly transform society, one courageous act at a time." The applause swelled again, a deafening roar that vibrated through the very foundations of the building. Many in the audience rose to their feet, offering a sustained, heartfelt ovation, a profound tribute to Anya, to her journey, and to the hope she now embodied. In that moment, Anya felt a deep sense of peace and profound fulfillment wash over her. She had overcome unimaginable challenges, faced down a powerful adversary, and now her story had become a beacon of kindness, courage, and steadfast dignity for millions. Anya Sharma's story stands as living proof that one person's bravery and decency can spark tremendous social change. She continued her pivotal role in Project Compassion, dedicating her life to advocating for vulnerable workers and creating a more just and compassionate world. Zara, her daughter, grew up proud of her mother, knowing that she had a mother who fought tirelessly and won a better future for everyone, a future where kindness and respect were not just ideals but realities. And so, my friends, Anya's journey, a journey that began with a single, courageous stand in a New Orleans restaurant, culminates not in an ending, but in a powerful new beginning. Her story isn't just a tale of triumph over adversity, it's a mirror reflecting the quiet battles many of us face every day. It reminds us that true strength isn't found in wealth or power, but in the unwavering conviction of our own worth, and the courage to demand respect, not just for ourselves, but for every soul around us. Think about it. How often do we, in our own lives, encounter moments where silence feels easier than speaking up, where the path of least resistance seems more appealing than standing firm for what's right? Anya's story challenges us to question that instinct. It asks us, what kind of ripple effect could your courage create in your world? What injustices, big or small, are we allowing to fester by our inaction? Remember this profound truth. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. It bends, not by itself, but through the persistent, courageous efforts of individuals like Anya, and by the collective will of those who choose to stand with them. If this story has made you pause, made you think, or stirred something deep within your heart, please leave a comment below. Share your thoughts, your experiences, your own moments of quiet defiance. If you have a different opinion, a unique perspective, I urge you to share it in the comments too. Healthy dialogue is how we grow. And if you like stories that inspire, that challenge, and that remind us of the incredible power within each of us, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you won't miss the next videos, where we continue to explore the human spirit's boundless capacity for resilience and change.